TICAD itself stands for Tokyo International Conference on African Development. It's a process that was initiated in 1993, and since 1993, TICAD has been meeting every 5 years. In other words, after 1993, the second TICAD was held in 1998, the third one in 2003, the fourth one in 2008, and the fifth one in 2013. So this is the sixth TICAD. That's why it is called TICAD VI. Now, the previous TICADs from 1 to 5 were all held in Japan. This is the first TICAD being held outside Japan, and the first time to be held on the African soil, and Kenya is hosting it on behalf of Africa.
Maybe what has it taken for Kenya to host this important event? Because you know that other countries are also more or less trying to lobby for the same. But share with us briefly in terms of what has it taken for Kenya to host this kind of critical forum.
I think the first and foremost is an acknowledgement of the capacity of Kenya to host a conference of this magnitude. And from previous experiences, we have proven ourselves. If I could just talk about the last major events that we have held, like the UNCTAD, the WTO, the Global Entrepreneurship Summit. And of course, you know, Nairobi is the only country in a developing world that is a center of the United Nations. The others being New York, Vienna, and Geneva. And secondly, it's also an honor that our African brothers and sisters have given Kenya in recognition of the very pivotal role that we are playing, both in terms of Africa and also in terms of the relationship that we have with Japan. As you know, we've got very close, cordial relations with Japan. We celebrated our Golden Jubilee in 2013. And again, if you look at the focus that Japan has in Africa, Kenya is used by the Japanese as a model of its development cooperation with the rest of Africa.
Yes, we know that the summit is starting tomorrow. Maybe you can share with us in terms of the preparations. How far the preparations so far in terms of for the summit?
The preparations, I would in a nutshell say, are complete. We've taken months and months to prepare for this conference. Ever since Kenya was declared, Nairobi was declared the host, we immediately set up what is called the National Steering Committee and the various subcommittees that work under this steering committee to organize all aspects of hosting a conference of this magnitude, ranging from hospitality to protocol to security to conferencing and so forth. So as we speak now, the conference has begun, but at the pre-summit level, which means the senior officials level, and also ministerial level, which took place today. Before that, we have had a series of meetings with co-organizers. By co-organizers, we mean Japan, the World Bank, the African Union, the United Nations Office for the Special Advisor for African Affairs, and the UNDP. Now, these co-organizers' meetings with the host country is regular, just to check on the state of preparedness of the conference itself. We've also had several meetings with at senior officials level in various places in Djibouti, in Banjul, and we've also had briefing sessions with the co-organizers and also with the various capitals where the African Diplomatic Corps are, basically in Addis Ababa and also in Tokyo.
Yes, also we know that there are pre-summit events which are going on and they started on Monday. I don't know that you can share with us in terms of the actual number of these pre-summit events and also their contribution to the actual success of the two-day summit starting from tomorrow.
We have various side events and pre-summit events. In fact, in total, there are in excess of 70. I think now about 73 of them. Some have taken place, as you've said, before the summit begins. Others will be taking place even as the summit is going on. Now, these side events are supposed to align themselves with the theme of the conference. The theme of the conference of TICAD VI is advancing Africa's development, sustainable development, through TICAD Partnership for Prosperity. And because of the very many areas that we are looking at in terms of the partnership we need to forge to bring about the prosperity and a good relationship between Africa and Japan, we identified three broad areas of industrialization, of health and social stability in all its aspects. So most of these side events are actually focusing in one way or the other in those themes that are going to be dealt with during the conference.
Yes, and yes, there is the issue of maybe the investments more or less in hotels, and we know that the delegates are putting up in hotels. Maybe how many facilities are hosting the delegates, and more or less talk about the business these hotels are making maybe in the 1 week, or rather the 2 days, but we know that is more or less, it should be 1 week.
It began from 23rd to 24th, and of course delegates arrived before that. We had actually identified and designated more than 30 hotels where delegates could put up in. We also identified various hotels that could host heads of state and government. We were working at a figure of about 8,000 delegates to come from all over, but the enthusiasm and interest which has been shown has been overwhelming. As I'm talking to you now, I've been told by our officers that are dealing with the accreditation that we're almost nearing 20,000 delegates registering, half of them having come from overseas. So there's massive business for the hotels, there's massive business for the services that are offered, there's massive business in terms of the tourism industry, because most of these delegates are also going to take advantage of being here to tour and sample some of the attractions that Kenya has. Of course, there's also the other aspects of in the hospitality industry, in the hotel industry, in the restaurants and so forth, in the transportation, because most of these car hires that they're using, even though they're being facilitated by the government, we've got them from car hire companies. So really there's a lot of business which has been generated. But what is most important, perhaps, is not just what is being made immediately, but what is there for the longer term benefit for the country. Because of those 20 plus thousand that we're talking about, many of them are from the business community. For the first time in this TICAD series, we're going to be having a lot of businessmen coming in to participate in the TICAD process. Before TICAD VI, we used to have the business community of the private sector just coming and participating in side events. But for the first time, we're going to have the captains of industry sitting down in plenary with the heads of state and government so that they can discuss and share with the leadership, the political leadership, what it is that the business community is looking for. In the long term, we're also seeing companies, if they came and invested in the major economic infrastructure is very fundamental for all other economic activities that will be taking place. If you look at the energy sector, for example, Japan is now one of the leading companies of the leading countries assisting us in the renewable energy sector. Geothermal, the one in Rift Valley, a pointer or an example that one can talk of. Now, energy is a prerequisite for any industrial takeoff that is required. It will help us to reduce cost of energy. So we are looking at the long-term benefits that will come from the involvement of Japanese companies in all sectors of our economic endeavors. What is most important also is seeing is believing. When they come and they actually meet with their potential partners, there's a trust formation, which is very important. And there's also an idea that you also come and see for yourself what is there. By 5 days or 10 days or so that you're talking about, it is colossal. So in other words, the benefits we're going to get, even by hosting this conference, will far outweigh the amount that the government will have spent in hosting it.
Okay. So, Ange, I, and Giselle will be. That's that. Okay. Okay. That's not how you do it, yes, not you. Yeah. No, but if
You can be good.